A man walks along the streets on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, heading toward the intersection of Broad Street and Wall Street. Holding his hand and keeping pace is his 9-year-old grandson. Young Daniel Frischberg is about to get a first-hand look at the New York Stock Exchange. He doesn't realize it yet, but his destiny is to be a major player in the world of finance. What he's learned over nearly 50 years, he'll teach you today, and it's all free of charge.
There's a billionaire locked inside you. The key to freedom is information, the kind of information you find here on the Money Man Report. Now, here's the Money Man. Here's Dan Frischberg.
Good morning, this is Elliott on 880 AM The Biz, broadcasting from lovely Miami Beach in southern Florida. This is the Money Man Report, and I think we were going to talk a little bit to start off about Japan.
But also we're broadcasting today to the world again. The streaming is on, and so we're broadcasting to the world on iHeartRadio and all the little places that people access us from all over the world on the web, and all the little buttons. They're all working today again.
And I know I have a lot of listeners who are very happy to hear that, who listen to us remotely.
And most of your listening audience is coming to the Florida event that we're doing. And if you guys haven't signed up yet, go to themoneyman.com or to capitalisttimesradio.com.
Yes, you can go to capitalisttimesradio.com and sign up to join us tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. at the Grove Isle Hotel and Resort and Spa, I believe, and at 6:30 p.m. And we're going to have a really great program, I think. We've got I'm going to be on hand to talk a little bit about energy. I know Dan's going to be on hand, as well as Amory Bodine, who's going to be telling us a little bit about MLP taxation and how to treat K1s, which I know is an issue that a lot of people that subscribe to my newsletters and that I've talked to over the years are worried about K1 taxation. It's nothing to be worried about, and Amory is going to give you all you need to know to get started and get prepared for your 2014 tax season coming up in, unfortunately, just a few months.
I'm going to be talking about bonds, and don't glaze over. It's going to be fun.
No, and I want to make sure that people know that if they didn't get a ticket, there are great refreshments, and they're going to be courtesy of Florida Community Bank, and that you're going to have tickets to get into this. We've sent a lot of comp tickets to people, but if you haven't gotten your ticket, I would say you ought to call, and I'm just going to give you Alicia's cell phone.
305-606-8281, or go to the website. Or a lot of people are calling the Grove Isle. So just call me. It'll be simple, 305-606-8281. Now, talk about Japan.
Yeah, okay. Now, I have a point in telling you this, but Japan is home to, it's a little island group, and they're home to 108 active volcanoes. That's 12% of all the volcanoes in the world are in Japan. 145 kilometers, approximately, 60, 70 miles north of Tokyo is Mount Osama, which since 1982 has had eruptions all the time. Now think about this. I was there when I was a kid, 18 years old. The Mount Fuji is absolutely huge. When you're a few miles away from that, you've never seen anything that big. But the bigger worry in Mount Fuji is that it has had 16 recorded eruptions since the year 781. There was an episode 300 years ago, and that's how Mount Fuji got to be so big. But it also absolutely covered the surrounding areas with lava and dust. And the problem is that almost a third of the population of Japan, a very densely populated place, can see Mount Fuji on a clear day. 1/3 of those people. And that means that if it went off, that's how many people would get what they call nicely a dusting. But it's less than 10 miles from Mount Fuji's central cone to the Tomai Expressway, which is a big road, Tokaido Rail Line, and the bullet train. All of these are right in the firing line of rocks the size of your head that get thrown out of a volcano. And if Mount Fuji, and I was there and climbed Mount Fuji, and there are rocks like that everywhere laying around, boulders, not boulders, but the size of your head, they're everywhere, and big ones. Now, if Mount Fuji had an eruption like they had in 1700, Tokyo, Kawasaki, and Yokohama, which are bigger than almost all the cities in the United States, would be covered in 16 centimeters of ash. The Narita airport would get about 4 centimeters. And you know what would happen if it rained? As soon as it rains, all that thick volcanic dust would turn into slurry, and then it would get hard, and it would be like cement. So that's what would happen to all those people, and then there's the next big earthquake, and almost all of Japan is in a seismic zone. So what I want to know is, are those people out of their minds? Are they crazy?
So would it relate?
Yeah, it relates
to my question that says, do you believe it is true that the longer the stock market goes without dropping, the more chance it will not drop? Is this reflecting in your behavior?
Are those
Elliott?
People in an adult way thinking about what they are doing?
Elliott?
Well, no, I don't think that the longer the stock market goes up without a correction, that the less likely it's to go down. I feel that, in fact, we've seen the stock market kind of go up until we had a little minor correction here over the last month and a half or two, but we've seen the stock market essentially go up uninterrupted for a long time, really, since 2012. I think that actually makes it more likely that we'll see a larger pullback next year.
So now I have to ask the audience, and this is Alicia's point, if you don't believe, what was the question again?
Do you believe, is it true that the longer the stock market goes without dropping and the more it will not drop?
The longer it goes without dropping, the less chance there is it will drop. And if you don't think that's true, is that reflected in your behavior? What are you doing about the fact that are you acting like you think that's true? Is that what these Japanese people are doing? Millions and millions of them acting like the longer they go without an eruption, the more they aren't going to have one? Do you buy that?
So let's talk about what would the real people who are really thinking.
What would you do?
What would you do?
If you weren't in this delusional state.
The conscious people. We'll be right back after these important messages.
Dan Frischberg here. You're already listening to my radio show, so why do I think my monthly newsletter matters to you? How can I imply that you need my letter even though there's a good chance you've been investing for many years? I got an email from a listener I want to share with you. He says he's been following my market X-ray for 10 years, but he still doesn't have the confidence to invest in a strong market. And he knows he should have more safe investments, but he doesn't know how to pick bonds or when to buy them. What we've been taught to believe is safe, like a U.S. Treasury, and especially a municipal bond, could turn out to be very risky with rates below the rate of inflation. That means you have to pay to keep money in a bond, a CD, or an annuity. All they can do is guarantee you'll be poorer at the end of the deal. But it isn't even that simple, because the people who bet against the U.S. stock market this year are actually losing money, and many of the stocks will hold their value and turn out to be safer than the bank account. You know, many of your friends are losing money with the world economy growing at 6% a year because they just don't know how the world has changed. I write these notes for myself at the beginning of every month to crystallize my thinking. I have to make strategic decisions, and on a different scale, you have to do the same thing. So I want to share my experience with you and help you position yourself to get a good read on what's really happening. Being paralyzed by confusion isn't a solution. Hoping the 90s come back is not a solution. Neither is blindly following the crowd, your emotions, or the conflicted ideas of some salesman. Get my best thinking in my market letter about all the markets every month, plain English, no jargon. That's at www.themoneyman.com. Try it risk-free, themoneyman.com. Or call 888-848-DAN-F. That's 888-848-3263.
This is Dick Robinson. If you can't get enough of Sinatra and Bennett, Clooney, and stuff like that, join me for American Standards by the Sea, brought to you in part by Connecticut Schools for Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, campus right here in Miami. American Standards by the Sea, Sunday, noon, here on South Florida's 880 The Biz.
Dick Robinson's American Standards by the Sea.
This is Chris Faulkner, CEO of Brightline Energy. Have you caught our new show on the Wall Street Business Network called Powering America? We talk about everything from politics to fracking and filtered all through my #1 motto, American oil from American soil. Yes, I firmly believe we can become totally free of foreign oil easily within the next 10 years, but we have obstacles, and that's what we're going to be talking about.
Powering America, weekday afternoons at 4 and Sunday afternoons at 2 on 880 The Biz.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. There's a good chance I will behave like a turkey this Thanksgiving. Not you. You will become the light of somebody's holiday with a free Thanksgiving e-card from crosscards.com. Be fun, be romantic, be expressive in a way you don't normally get to be, and above all, express the spirit of thanks in a way that really matters to someone who really matters to you. Free Thanksgiving e-cards from crosscards.com.
Tune in Monday through Friday here on 880 AM The Biz at 8 a.m. to the Pete De La Torre Business Hour, the voice of business in Miami. His daily program keeps a close eye on late-breaking information about economic development, business opportunities, and entrepreneurship in Miami and South Florida, featuring important discussions with key industry experts and inspiring conversations with local, national, and global entrepreneurs. That's the Pete De La Torre Business Hour here on 880 AM The Biz, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m.
Good morning. This is Elliott Yu with the Money Man Report. We're broadcasting on 880 a.m. in Southern Florida, and today back on the streaming on the iHeart radio to the world.
And by the way, I don't mean to imply with this kind of talk that this little pullback that you're seeing this morning of a fractional percent is actually the end of the bull market or anything like that. What I'm not saying we're about to be hit by an asteroid or anything like that. What I'm saying is that people are acting like it's impossible because we've gone on for a long time. It's not only possible, it's absolutely inevitable that there's going to be a big selling episode and a profit-taking episode and a slowing in the economy. And I think that it's very likely to be soon meaning a matter of months. Right now, for the short run, just for the sport of describing the short-term moves so you know what to expect, this little pullback here is going to dissolve into a nice little rally, but I bet you that in early December, or even maybe before that, but in early December, I'll bet you there is a nice-sized adjustment and correction that the market does not run straight up.
Okay, during the break, we were talking about, to summarize what you just said, Japan analogy, where the investor sits within a seismic zone. So when we were in our break, you said people relate that to Seadrill. Elaborate.
Yeah. Well, Seadrill is a stock. It's a deepwater offshore contract driller, symbol SDRL. It's a name that I recommended for many years and really pounded the table on after the Macondo oil spill back in 2010. And it's a name that has performed very well over the long term. We've seen it go up a lot. It pays a huge dividend. I believe it has about a 12% yield right now. Pays out a dollar a quarter. It even has a higher than 12% yield now. So it's a name that a lot of people are in and a lot of people have done well with. But the reality is that it started to go down over a year ago. And I recommended getting out of the name because I felt that they had a lot of challenges ahead, a lot of headwinds ahead. In particular, demand for deepwater drilling had slowed down because a lot of the big oil companies were cutting their CapEx budgets on these very, very, very expensive deepwater projects. Now, if they can't make money on a deepwater project with Brent at well over $100 a barrel, then they certainly can't make money with Brent at $80 a barrel. So it's even getting worse now. At the same time, you have a lot of new rigs coming out of shipyards, and I think the stock could go a lot lower than it is even now. It's trading in the low 20s. I think this name could go below 15 easily by early next year if oil prices remain where they are, perhaps even lower because they have an awful lot of debt. They could get into real financial trouble by 2016 when they have a number of new rigs coming out. But, I've written a bunch of articles telling people to get out of this name starting, over $20 ago, actually, higher. And I get so much hate mail whenever I post an article saying, sell this stock, that I told a lot of people to get into before, because people, when a stock starts going down, because they've made so much money on it, they act like, well, it can't be going down for a good reason. Even though it's been rallying all this time without much in the way of a correction, even over the last 2 years, it must not be going down for a good reason. It's going down because short sellers are attacking it, or it's going down because somebody came out with a negative research report from one of the major brokerages, or it's going down, my favorite, it's going down because I said it's going to go down. Well, and it's just, their behavior isn't reflecting the reality of the situation. And when they start losing money on it, suddenly they become long-term investors. Before, they were looking for the yield and to make a quick dollar on Seadrill. Now, when they start losing money, they're long-term investors in the stock.
In other words, they're rationalizing their behavior. They're trying to be right.
They're trying to be right.
We call this paying to be right.
And nobody wants to admit that they're wrong. And the way you admit that you're wrong on the stock is that you sell it and lose money.
Okay, another question. Do you believe there is any chance that the world will go for more than the next 5 years without either a geopolitical wave of fear or a wave of recession fear? Is this reflected in your behavior? Do you...
Wait. Ask one question at a time.
Okay.
Is there any chance that we're going to go for the next 5 years without getting scared by something, either geopolitical conflict that we get scared of, or a recession, a collapse of some economy or a lot of economies, or both of those things? Is there any chance that we're going to go for the next 5 years without that?
I would just say that, has that ever happened in history? Not that I'm aware of. Have we ever gone 5 years without some sort of a major scare or a major pullback in the stock market?
Well, even in all this quantitative easing, we haven't even gone 1 year without one.
Right, and even back in the 1990s, which everybody holds up as the biggest bull market in history, we still had plenty of hiccups. 1994, 1997, 1998.
There's a reason why Alicia is asking that, I think, and we'll discuss it because there's a...
We'll be right back after these important messages.
Chasing stocks when the herd is chasing them is just gambling and hardly ever works. Hey, Dan Frischberg here from the Money Man Report. You've seen that firsthand. I'm confirming it. Everyone who tries to follow the crowd up and down ends up losing money. Meanwhile, Blackstone, Buffett, Zell, and the smart money everywhere let investments make them rich by investing in companies they understand and believe in and staying with them until the companies, not the stocks, fail. Because their investments mean something, they find courage, vision, patience, tenacity, everything it takes to succeed. Now those pros are also using one option strategy that's working like crazy, producing both quick profits and lower risk. My simple video shows it all in just a few minutes. I don't sell investments, no credit card, immediate gratification. Watch the video on themoneyman.com or call my hotline 888-848-3263. Themoneyman.com or 888-848-DAN-F.
My family's safety is my responsibility. Lord forbid anything were to happen while I'm away. So my wife and I decided to get a home security system. The best advice came from an ex-cop buddy who said he had a Vivint home security system. So we went with Vivint. Anyway, about a week later I was traveling. It was late and I got that feeling. Like I should check on my family. So I connected to my Vivint home security system from my smartphone. My security camera showed everything was okay. But my oldest forgot to lock the back door and set the alarm. No worries. I armed the system and locked the doors right from my smartphone. Bottom line, with Vivint, I worry way less.
Get Vivint Home Security, winner of Consumer Digest's Best Buy Award for its advanced security. Call and get up to $1,800 in security equipment at no charge. That's $1,800 in security equipment at no charge. Call 800-407-1052. That's 800-407-1052. 800-407-1052.
Restrictions apply. 48 or 60-month agreement at minimum $68 per month and activation fee required. Not available in Louisiana. See Vivint.com for license numbers.
Every 67 seconds, someone in the United States develops Alzheimer's. And today, more than 5 million Americans are living with the disease. Have you thought about who would provide that care for you or a family member and how to pay for it? The cost can run $80 to $90, $100,000 annually or more. But there's an even greater expense. In 2013, 15.5 million family and friends provided 17.5 billion hours of unpaid care to those with Alzheimer's and other dementias. Due to the physical and emotional burden, caregivers had $9.3 billion in additional health care costs of their own. All told, 60 to 70% of us will need some form of long-term care, and Medicare likely won't pay. Contact my good friend Lynn Rowe, CFP, today and receive her free booklet and information on long-term health care. Call 877-270-3127. That's 877-270-3127. Or go online at iwantmyltc.net. iwantmyltc.net.
Good morning. This is Elliott with the Money Man Report, broadcasting on 880 AM The Biz, and also to the world on iHeartRadio.
And it is Capitalist Times Radio, the Money Man Report branch. And look, when Elliott was talking about Seadrill, which is a very popular stock among our listeners and among Elliott's subscribers, and you get that, you say, well, my God, he likes it, he doesn't like it, it's changing all the time, and how can I ever keep up with it? And the answer is, it doesn't change all the time. That oil was going up and getting more and more and more expensive and attractive to drill for years and years and years, right? After maybe 8-9 years of doing that and making a fortune on that, you get to the point where the high oil price attracts capacity. Everybody and their uncle is drilling in 100 different ways. Suddenly you have enough oil, and so the price starts to moderate, and you start to have a price war. And at that point, it's no longer a good deal to go looking deep water and spend a ton of money. So for another several years, it isn't going to be a good deal. This is not hard to keep up with. Hold on. Yes?
Seadrill was your pick, Elliott, and it was the most nice-looking girl in the world.
Yeah, it was shiny and 10-11%.
Nice legs.
10-11% return, and it was doing great for all those years. That's why people are reluctant. But the people that are listening and saying, oh, I don't want to get involved in something, and it's good, it's bad, it's good. No. 8 or 10 year cycles. That's longer than most people's marriages.
Well, and it's not like I've been advising people to trade in and out of this thing. I was pretty consistent, to the point that at one conference I went to, they were calling me Mr. Seadrill, because I was so passionate on the stock. And, it's a name that I recommended for a long time. It did do well. At that time, a lot of people didn't understand the real driver of Seadrill, which was that they owned the newest rigs, the most capable
took a
rigs.
lot of huge rental.
They were taking over $600,000 a day.
I want to illustrate the fact.
We're trying to save Daniel, and look, he can't help it.
There is a common thread that runs through my entire program for all these years, and that is, we don't really want somebody that just says the same thing all the time and is a robot trying to sell something. And what we want are people who are actually have the flexibility of thought to actually know what they're doing and to think clearly. And so what we want is somebody who understands it well enough and is not afraid to say, okay, it's time to take profits on that now. Hence, Elliott Q sitting here with us, being a big part of the program, because he's been doing that on our show for many, many years. And we've been getting so much good information. He's made us so much money that we thought it would be good to share it with you even more than we have been before. But this is the whole point. These things do not stay the same. And the way you actually make money on things is because somebody's got to make a mistake. This is a very efficient world with a very efficient market. In order for you to do anything, it's got to be out of equilibrium, and almost everything is in equilibrium. So somebody's got to be making mistakes for you to be able to make a lot of money. And right now what they're doing is they're paying way too much for stocks like Seadrill.
They're paying way too much for that, and they're not paying enough attention to some of the midstream and downstream consumption-orientated names we've been talking about on the show that actually are in the sweet spot of the cycle right now.
They're not making the adjustment when the world changes.
Exactly.
That's the whole point of what we're saying. And Alicia's question was to say, there are changes going on in the world, and do you believe that the longer you go without one, the less it's going to happen? And I brought up Japan, and anybody that's listening is saying, are they crazy? I wouldn't want to. Who would ever do that? You're going to build a whole society, a city bigger than New York City, within 20 miles of a volcano that is like 2 miles, 3 miles high, and it all got that way by spewing lethal burning rocks out into the atmosphere, and within some short period of time it's going to completely cover that area, and then as soon as it rains it's going to turn into inches of slurry like cement all over every place. Is that really where I want to live?
Folks, I have limited time to share Daniel, Elliott, and Amory, and everybody else. It will be Thursday, so if you haven't gotten your ticket, if you want to come, call me 305-606-8281.
That's tomorrow night.
That's tomorrow
and
night.
We're going to be talking about what to do instead, as we will do a little bit of tomorrow. And in a world where the price of the dollar is going up, where we have deflation, or at least non-inflation instead of inflation, in a world of people that have been brought up, do you understand that if I make 5% on a bond, and then I get paid back in 10 years for that bond, that I'm going to be being paid back 5% a year more because the dollar went up, and another 5% because they're paying me interest? That means I'm actually getting 10% richer. Think about that. And when you were asking, do you think that there's going to be a moment of fear somewhere along the line? That's why I don't care what the maturity date on that bond is. I love that it has one, so that I know that it's going to be guaranteed to be worth that money at some point. But I know that within the next few years or less, I'm going to get to sell that to a bunch of people that are in a panic. And I'm going to get to sell that and buy a bunch of stuff that they're deserting like rats deserting a sinking ship. That's how you make a lot of money.
Okay, folks, you want to tickle your brain? Join this discussion Thursday, 6:30 p.m. at number 4 Grove Isle Hotel.
To do that, you have to go to themoneyman.com or capitalisttimes.com or call 888-848-DAN-F or 888-848-3263. There's not a lot of space left, but there is some.
Okay, next is
You got no cause
Morris
to sing the
Spanish.
blues. You got assets, cash, your home.